Awareness is not enough. You must also choose to listen. If your pattern is distraction, stop scrolling. Look inward. If your pattern is denial, start admitting the truth you've been avoiding. If your pattern is seeking approval, start turning your gaze toward your own heart. This is how you reclaim your true self. Let me share a story. Maya, 24, had everything to prove. A top student, a promising career, a social circle that envied her. Yet every night she felt a heavy emptiness. She was exhausted, not physically but emotionally. Her mind was a constant loop. Am I really happy? Do I even know what I want? Why can't I just feel at peace? But she ignored these questions. She told herself, keep busy, don't stop. If I stop, everything will fall apart. Her phone buzzed with messages and work emails. She responded quickly, masking the growing anxiety inside. One evening, the pressure became unbearable. She sat alone in her room, phone off, lights dimmed, and for the first time in months she was silent. At first, the silence was terrifying. Her thoughts became louder, fears surfacing. What if I'm wasting my life? What if I'm not enough? What if I never find myself? But slowly a new voice emerged, softer yet powerful. A voice inviting her to listen, to feel, to look inward. Carl Jung said it best. Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Maya began to write. She asked herself questions she had avoided. What do I truly want? What parts of me have I ignored? Where am I pretending to be someone else? As she answered honestly, a pattern emerged. She was living for others, her parents' expectations, her friends' approval, her boss's praise. But not for herself. This is the trap many young people fall into today. Lost in a sea of external noise, chasing goals that aren't theirs, seeking validation that never lasts. Ignoring your inner voice is not just neglect. It's a slow erasure of who you really are. It leads to anxiety, burnout, confusion, and a hollow feeling of disconnection. But your inner voice is always there, patiently waiting. Waiting for you to stop, breathe, and listen. Awareness is the first step. Choosing to honor that awareness is the second. When Maya chose to listen, she wasn't perfect overnight. She stumbled. She forgot herself sometimes. She felt the pull to go back to old habits. But each time she returned to her truth, it got easier. Her inner voice grew stronger. Her clarity deepened. Because your inner voice is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is your compass, your guide, your deepest truth. When you ignore it, you lose your way. When you embrace it, you find freedom. Ask yourself, where have I been ignoring my feelings? What parts of me have I silenced to fit in? How does it feel to start listening instead? This journey is not easy, but it is worth it. Your vision will not come from the world outside. It will come from the courage to face your own heart. And in that courage, you will finally find yourself again. Awareness is not enough. You must also choose differently. If your pattern is people-pleasing, start saying no, even when it feels uncomfortable. If your pattern is overgiving, start protecting your time and energy. If your pattern is avoiding conflict, start leaning into the hard conversations. This is how you reclaim your emotional power. Let me tell you about Sophie, 27. Sophie was the perfect girlfriend. Always there when he called. Always rearranging her schedule. Always putting his needs before her own. She thought that's what love meant. Sacrifice, patience, endless giving. But inside, Sophie felt exhausted and invisible. Her anxiety grew, masked behind a smile and, "It's okay." One day, after canceling her plans again, she realized, "I'm here for him. But who am I here for?" The truth hit hard. She had lost herself in trying to be everything for someone else. Sophie tried to say no for the first time. Her heart pounded. She feared his reaction. Would he be angry? Would he leave? But she said it anyway. He was surprised. She felt guilty. But something shifted. She was no longer invisible to herself. She had drawn a line. Setting emotional boundaries isn't about pushing people away. It's about protecting your emotional space so you can show up fully with yourself and others. Blurred boundaries cause pain. You give and give but never get back. You feel anxious, drained, walking on eggshells. Why? Because you ignored the inner voice saying, "Stop. This isn't right for you." When you ignore that voice, you lose your identity. You live as a shadow of what others expect. Carl Jung reminds us the psyche needs balance. Too much giving and too little receiving fractures your inner self. Your mind wants approval. Your heart wants peace. You get stuck in between. Sophie's journey was hard. She faced confusion, guilt, and loneliness. Some friends distanced themselves. Her boyfriend was uncomfortable with her new boundaries. But Sophie also found something precious: self-respect. She nurtured her own interests. She rebuilt friendships that honored her. Her anxiety began to fade. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It's saying, "I matter too." It's having the courage to protect your energy. Think of attention as currency. Spend it without care and it loses value. Spend it selectively and it becomes your power. When you're always available, your attention feels ordinary. But when you withdraw intentionally, your presence becomes rare and valuable. Not everyone will like this change. Some will push back. Some will leave. But that's okay. This is not about controlling others. It's about mastering your response. People respect you more when you respect yourself. Your energy shifts from desperation to calm confidence. You stop chasing approval, you choose presence. This shift changes everything. You're no longer a shadow in someone's life. You become a light. Because you honor your worth. Mark, 32, also struggled. He avoided conflict and said yes even when he disagreed. Resentment built up silently. With support, Mark learned to face hard conversations. He started small. "I feel hurt when you..." Awkward at first, but over time honesty rebuilt connection. Avoidance only deepened his anxiety and distance. Leaning into discomfort, guided by his inner voice, opened doors to real intimacy. Setting boundaries shows emotional maturity. It says, "I am worthy of respect and care. I control my energy. I choose who stays in my life." When you honor your boundaries, your inner voice grows clearer. You trust yourself. You stop losing yourself in others' expectations. This is true self-love. Ask yourself, where do I say yes when I want to say no? Where do I silence my needs to avoid conflict? Your answers guide you to your boundaries. This is a practice. You will stumble. You will feel guilt and fear. But every choice reclaims your power. Detachment is not cutting off. It's protecting peace. It's being present with yourself first. When you stop losing yourself in others, you find your way back home. Awareness is not enough. You must also choose differently. If your pattern is overthinking, start noticing when your mind races out of control. If your pattern is rumination, begin to interrupt the cycle with self-compassion. If your pattern is worry, learn to anchor yourself in the present moment. This is how you reclaim your mental peace. Let me tell you about Liam, 29. Liam was constantly trapped in his thoughts. What if I fail? What if they don't like me? What if I mess up again? His mind was a storm that never stopped. It drained his energy and clouded his judgment. On the surface, Liam appeared calm and successful. Inside, he was overwhelmed and exhausted. He called it the anxiety loop. No matter how many distractions he found, work, social media, exercise, the worries returned. Liam tried to ignore the voice inside him that said, "Slow down. Listen. You're not okay." But he pushed harder, thinking productivity would silence the noise. One night, after a panic attack, Liam finally listened. He sat quietly and asked, "What am I really afraid of?" With support from therapy, he uncovered a deep pattern. His unconscious belief was, "If I'm not perfect, I'm worthless." This belief wasn't his fault. It was scripted by years of criticism and high expectations in childhood. Once Liam recognized this, he felt both scared and hopeful. Scared because the truth was painful. Hopeful because now he had a choice. He began to practice mindfulness, simple moments of breathing and observing thoughts without judgment. He learned that thoughts are not facts. Worries are not commands. He could feel anxious and still choose peace. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." For Liam, becoming himself meant breaking free from the prison of overthinking. It wasn't easy. His mind resisted. Old habits pulled him back into rumination. But each time he caught himself, he paused and said, "This is not the truth. I am enough." Liam's anxiety didn't vanish overnight, but his relationship with his thoughts changed. He stopped running from himself. He started responding with kindness. This is emotional wisdom, not coldness, not denial. It's choosing not to be swept away by every fear or doubt. If you recognize yourself in Liam's story, know this: your inner voice is not the enemy. It is trying to guide you back to peace. Overthinking is a symptom of disconnect. You are not listening to your heart's true message. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding by thinking so much? What would happen if I slowed down and trusted myself? You don't need to fix everything right now. You don't need to solve every problem before you rest. You need to start choosing differently. This means practicing small moments of stillness daily, being gentle when your mind races, reminding yourself that you are more than your fears. This is how you reclaim your mind. Not by silencing your thoughts completely, because that's impossible, but by learning to observe without judgment. When you stop fighting your anxiety, it loses power. When you honor your inner voice, you find clarity. And that clarity opens the door to freedom. Liam's story is just one example. Thousands struggle silently with the same storm. But remember, you are not broken. You are not alone. You are on a journey toward emotional mastery. Each time you listen to your inner voice instead of the noise of overthinking, you step closer to peace. And that peace is worth everything. Awareness is not enough. You must also choose differently. If your pattern is procrastination, start small. Begin now. If your pattern is self-sabotage, start noticing when you resist your own growth. If your pattern is inconsistency, build habits that honor your future self. This is how you reclaim your power through discipline. Let me share a story. Andre, 35, was obsessed with achievement. Degrees, promotions, medals, all his trophies of success. On the outside, he looked unstoppable. Inside, he felt empty. One day, overwhelmed and exhausted, he broke down. "I don't know who I am without the next win," he admitted. We traced it back. As a boy, Andre only received love when he performed. A perfect report card earned a hug. A mistake was met with silence. So achievement became his identity. Not because he was driven, but because he was afraid. Afraid that if he stopped performing, he'd be nothing. His unconscious belief? I'm only lovable when I succeed. When he saw this, Andre cried, not out of weakness, but relief. For the first time, he understood. The man chasing success was still a little boy begging to be seen. This is the power of making the unconscious conscious. Discipline is often misunderstood as rigid control or harsh self-denial. But real discipline is freedom. It is the freedom to choose your path, to create yourself anew each day. Andre learned to slow down, to listen to his inner voice rather than external expectations. He began to practice self-compassion. He let himself be imperfect, messy, human. He built daily routines, not as punishment but as acts of care. A morning meditation, setting boundaries at work, saying no to extra tasks that drained him. These small acts of discipline reshaped his life. His anxiety eased. His confidence grew. He stopped chasing approval and started living from purpose. Carl Jung said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart." Discipline bridges dreams and reality. Nietzsche's insight reminds us that without discipline, dreams remain wishes. When you master your habits, you master your destiny. But this doesn't mean perfection. You will falter. You will face resistance from inside and outside. Discipline requires patience, persistence, and kindness to yourself. Andre's journey was far from linear. Some days he slipped back into old fears and doubts. But now he remembered faster. He saw clearer. He returned to his truth again and again. And that is the essence of freedom. Discipline is not about forcing yourself. It's about choosing yourself. When you respect your time, your energy, your goals, you reclaim the power that distraction and doubt try to steal. Ask yourself, where am I giving my power away? What habits keep me stuck? How can I show up for myself today? The answers guide you toward true discipline. This discipline becomes a shield against anxiety, distraction, and despair. It grounds you. It anchors you in your own strength. Andre now lives differently, not perfect, but present. Not driven by fear, but by love for himself. You can do the same. Because the woman or man who masters discipline is the one who no longer loses themselves. They live connected to their inner voice. They create their own freedom. And that freedom is unstoppable. Awareness is not enough. You must choose differently. If you ignore your needs, start honoring them even if it feels strange. If you always please others, start showing your true self without apology. If you avoid hard feelings, face your fears with courage. This is how you reclaim your life. Let me tell you about Mia, 31. Mia spent years trying to please everyone, family, friends, partners. Her inner voice was quiet. She drowned it out with noise. On the outside, she looked fine. Inside, she felt lost and broken. One day, she stopped and asked, "Who am I really?" She realized she had ignored her inner voice too long. She forgot how to listen. With therapy and journaling, she reconnected with her heart. Jung said, "Your vision clears when you look into your heart." It was hard. Fear and doubt followed her. But every time she chose to be real, she felt a spark of freedom. She stopped saying yes to everything. She stopped hiding her feelings. She began setting boundaries. Living authentically is not about being perfect. It's about having courage. The courage to be real and vulnerable. She accepted her messy humanity. She found that honoring her inner voice means living her truth. No more chasing approval. No more shrinking to fit others. She built a life that reflects who she truly is. Jung said integrating the unconscious brings wholeness. Listening to your inner voice bridges who you are with who you want to be. This is true freedom. Mia's relationships changed. She attracted people who loved her for herself. She let go of those who didn't. Her anxiety eased. Her discipline grew, not from force but love. She became the author of her own story. If you are on this path, know this. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to feel lost. Each time you listen to your inner voice, You reclaim yourself. You grow stronger. You love yourself more. You find freedom. Ask yourself, what part of me have I ignored? What if I listen without fear? Your inner voice is your compass. When you listen and act, you stop living in fear. You live in peace. That is the greatest gift you can give yourself. When you stop ignoring yourself, you stop losing yourself. You become whole. That's when your real life begins. Awareness is just the start. You must also act differently. If you ignore your needs, start honoring them. Even if it feels strange or scary. If you always please others, start showing your true self. No more hiding, no more apologizing. If you avoid hard feelings, face them. Lean into discomfort with courage. This is how you take back control of your life. Let me tell you about Mia, 31 years old. For years, Mia tried to please everyone. Family, friends, partners. Her inner voice was quiet, barely heard. She ignored it. On the outside, Mia seemed fine. But inside, she felt empty and lost. She suffered anxiety and loneliness. Her heart wanted to speak but was silenced. One day after a breakdown, she stopped. She asked herself, "Who am I really?" That moment changed everything. She started therapy and journaling. Slowly, she listened to her heart again. Jung said, "Your vision clears when you look into your heart." It wasn't easy. Fear and doubt showed up. What if people rejected her? What if she disappointed others? Still, Mia chose to be authentic. She stopped saying yes just to keep peace. She stopped hiding her feelings. She set boundaries even when it was hard. Living authentically is not about being perfect. It's about having courage to be real. Messy, imperfect, human. When Mia listened to her inner voice, she stopped chasing approval. She stopped shrinking herself. She built a life true to her. Jung taught that integrating unconscious parts makes us whole. Listening to your inner voice brings you closer to who you really are. This is true freedom. Mia's relationships changed. She attracted people who loved her for real. She let go of those who didn't. Her anxiety lessened. Her self-discipline grew, not from force but love. She became the author of her story. If you're on this path, remember, it's okay to struggle. It's okay to feel lost. Every time you listen to yourself, you reclaim a part of you. You grow stronger and kinder. You find freedom. Ask yourself, what part of me have I ignored? What if I listen without fear? Your inner voice is your guide. It leads you through uncertainty. When you listen and act, you stop living in fear. You live in peace. That's the best gift you can give yourself. When you stop ignoring yourself, you stop losing yourself. You become whole, and that's when your real life begins. Mia's journey wasn't straight. Sometimes she fell back, but she learned to forgive and try again. She made small habits, mindfulness, journaling, saying no. These helped her stay true to herself. Her friends noticed. She was calmer and confident. She stopped needing approval. Her story shows, listening to your inner voice is a lifelong practice. It needs courage, patience, and self-love.